The Valorian cubs circled Susan's sleeping quarters with the practiced precision of apex predators, their obsidian claws clicking against the metallic floor of the diplomatic vessel. Each one stood nearly 4 feet tall despite their youth, their scaled hides rippling with iridescent patterns that marked them as offspring of the Valorian High Command. They were bred for war, engineered for conquest, and absolutely transfixed by a simple human pillow. Joseph watched from the doorway, suppressing a laugh as the largest Kuba male named Krazeth nudged his siblings aside with a low growl. It was his turn, apparently. According to whatever incomprehensible schedule the young predators had established among themselves. You know they're going to start a civil war over that thing, Joseph said, leaning against the frame. Susan looked up from her datapad, her expression somewhere between exasperation and fondness. They already did. Yesterday, Cyrax and Makara got into a tussle over whose turn it was. I had to separate them like they were human toddlers fighting over a toy. Except these toddlers have fangs that can pierce titanium alloy. Minor detail, Susan said with a shrug. The pillow in question was unremarkable by human standards, a simple memory foam cushion with a faded floral pillowcase that Susan had brought from Earth. She'd smuggled it aboard despite the strict weight restrictions, insisting that she couldn't sleep on the standard issue ship pillows. Now, 3 months into their diplomatic mission to broker peace with the Valorian Empire, that pillow had become the most coveted object among the apex predators' offspring. Krazeth finally claimed his prize. Dragging the pillow to his designated corner of Susan's quarters, he circled it 3 times, always 3, never more. Never less, before settling down with his massive head resting atop the cushion. Within seconds, a deep, rumbling purr emanated from his chest, a sound that would have terrified most species in the galaxy. To Susan and Joseph it had become as familiar as white noise. I still don't understand it, Joseph said, stepping into the room. These are their species conquered 43 star systems before they were old enough to walk. Their culture glorifies strength, combat prowess, and tactical superiority. And yet they've turned my pillow into a sacred artifact, Susan finished. She set down her datapad and watched as Krazeth's breathing slowed into the steady rhythm of sleep. The xenopsychologist on Deck 7 thinks it's the scent. Humans produce pheromones that most species find either repulsive or neutral, but apparently, to Valorians, we smell like safety. Safety, Joseph repeated, his tone incredulous. The galaxy's most feared predator species associates humans with safety. It's not that strange when you think about it. Before we made contact, Valorians didn't have a concept of rest as we understand it. They had combat meditation, strategic dormancy, survival, sleep. Everything was framed through the lens of warfare. They didn't have ... comfort. Joseph moved closer, observing the sleeping cub. Krazeth's scales had shifted to a softer shade of blue, a coloration the xenopsychology team had identified as contentment. One of his clawed feet twitched slightly, as if chasing prey in his dreams. When was the last time you actually got to use that pillow? Joseph asked. Susan laughed. 3 months ago, the night before Krazeth first wandered in here. It had been an accident, that first encounter. Susan had left her quarters unsealed, and the curious cub had slipped inside while she was in the shower. She'd emerged to find him curled around her pillow, his dangerous eyes closed in what appeared to be the most peaceful sleep of his young life. When she'd tried to reclaim it, Krazeth had looked at her with such genuine distress that she couldn't bring herself to take it away. Word had spread quickly among the cubs. By the end of the week, all 7 offspring of the High Command had discovered the pillow's existence. What followed was chaos, territorial disputes, elaborate negotiations conducted in growls and postures, and eventually, the establishment of the schedule. The cubs had worked it out themselves, without any adult intervention. Each one got exactly 4 hours with the pillow, rotating in an order that seemed to be based on some complex hierarchy only they understood. They never missed their turns. They never tried to steal extra time. The precision would have impressed any military commander in the galaxy. Ambassador Kelroth wanted to confiscate it, Joseph said. Thought it was making his offspring weak. I know. I told him if he tried, I'd file a formal diplomatic complaint for theft of personal property. You threatened a Valorian High Commander over a pillow. I threatened a Valorian High Commander over a principle, Susan corrected. These cubs discovered something their culture never gave them: the concept of comfort without purpose, rest without strategic value. That's not weakness. That's civilization. Joseph considered this, watching as another cub, Cyrax, the smallest of the group, quietly entered the room. She didn't approach the pillow. Her turn wasn't for another 2 hours. Instead, she settled near the doorway, her luminous eyes fixed on Krazith with patient intensity. "They're learning to wait," Joseph observed, "to respect boundaries, to share something precious." "All from a pillow," Susan said softly. But it wasn't just a pillow anymore, and they both knew it. It had become a bridge between species, a teaching tool more effective than any diplomatic protocol. The Valorian cubs were learning that strength didn't always mean dominance, that power could coexist with gentleness, that even the fiercest predator needed moments of simple peace. 3 weeks later, when the diplomatic mission concluded successfully and the treaty was signed, Ambassador Kelrath made an unusual request. He asked Suzanne if she would leave the pillow behind. "For the cubs?" she asked. "For the Empire," Kelrath replied, his voice carrying a weight that suggested he understood the full significance of what he was asking. "So they remember what you taught them, what you taught us all." Susan looked at Joseph, who gave her an encouraging nod. "On one condition," she said. "The schedule continues. They keep rotating. They keep sharing." Kelrath's expression shifted into what Susan had learned to recognize as a Valorian smile, a slight narrowing of the eyes, a subtle relaxation of the jaw. "The schedule is sacred. It will be maintained." As their shuttle departed from the Valorian flagship, Joseph asked, "Do you think you'll miss it?" "The pillow?" Susan watched the massive warship shrink in the view, imagining 7 predator cubs maintaining their careful rotation, learning lessons of patience and sharing that would shape the future of their civilization. "I can get another pillow," she said. "They can't get another chance at peace." Behind them, across the vast darkness of space, Krazith was settling down for his turn, circling the sacred object 3 times before resting his head upon it, purring into the quiet of his quarters, dreaming dreams of a gentler universe.